What's up, dude?
Hey, man.
Hey, so I bought the 40K figures. I have the
Yeah.
Ultramarine now, all in blue. I've got the fucking Blood Angel, all in red. It's going strong. And now that I have the figures, and it's like, okay, I have like a real like nerd way of being into 40K besides like trying
Right.
to apply it to real life. I'm like, okay, I can approach this a bit differently now. So I've been looking into a lot more 40K stuff, and I've realized that where I think I and maybe even all of us back in the day fucked up with 40K is we got way too into like the current timeline of 40K, and the good shit is pre-heresy and Horus Heresy. That's the good shit. So
I
I'm
agree.
I'm getting more into that. I want to start reading the Horus Heresy books, and I was looking online for like fan animation and stuff to watch, and I found a fanimation of the short story by Graham McNeil, The Last Church, and I sent you the link to it. We both watched it. I'm not gonna play it here in this video because it's over an hour long,
Yeah.
but the animation's not great, but it does the job. I mean, it's just two dudes in a church talking, so it's
It was
fine.
like Diablo 3. You know
Yeah,
those old, yeah, it was like
yeah,
that. If you kind of like that,
yeah,
it was like that. It was like a moving comic. It was cool.
yeah. But it's a motion comic. But so that's what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about this Last Church animated short story, and it's good. But I need to preface this video with this disclaimer. Uh, the plot of this short story, this animated short story, is it is an atheist debating religion with a priest. And before we talk about that, I want to make it very clear on this channel that while inherently as we talk about this, we're going to be talking about religion and debating religion, I would like everyone to keep in mind we are also talking about Warhammer 40K fiction. So that's the
Yeah.
core of it. This is not a theological. It will inevitably seem similar to a theological debate, but at its core, we're talking about Warhammer 40,000, which is a fictional science fantasy universe based on tabletop games and video games and books and stuff. So, and also, I think it's pretty impossible, like, as we talk about this, our personal views on, like, which side we take are going to become pretty clear.
Yeah.
But that's, once again, that's our opinion, and it's not us. No matter what we say while we talk about this piece of 40K fiction, we're not telling people how to live their lives, and
No.
we're not shitting on them either. So, all
And I
right.
want you all to know it's because I don't care what you
Yeah.
believe. I mean
Yeah.
that. I mean it. I just don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Is if you believe it, that's great. That's it.
Yep. Enough said. And I mean, as we get into it, and I guess we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. That is more or less one of the priest's points in this. So, just to kind of like give you a little setup here for people watching and you haven't seen it, I highly recommend anyone who's a fan of Warhammer 40K go check this out, or just read the short story by Graham McNeil. And on that note, like Graham McNeil killed it. Like normally I hate his 40K shit, but this is a good piece of it. And the premise is it's the last church on
We
Terra.
have to stop.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
got you. Hold on, no
I
worries.
I'm the only one who
So yeah, this just a little bit of setup and background here. This takes place in the Warhammer 40K universe, and the thing that a lot of people who are not familiar with 40K, it's what makes it unique about being science fantasy is most science fiction or science fantasy takes place maybe like a few hundred years in the
yeah.
future, Star Trek, Halo, stuff like that. This takes place 30 to 40,000 years in the future, so it is a monumental leap. And in this short story, the last church, the final church on Terra, which is Earth, and this is like 30,000 years into the future.
Yeah.
It's the final church. The Emperor of Mankind, who is this new leader of humanity, he's going around bringing all of the individual human tribes and sovereign nations together, and he's based. Just a little background about the Emperor. The Emperor is the human embodiment of not fucking around. All right, he's not fucking around. He's gonna get shit done, and if he has to put a bullet in your head to get shit done, he's gonna do it. So he
Yeah.
has just been spreading his what he calls his imperial truth. He's like, hey guys, this barbaric, superstitious, divisive bullshit that the human race has been doing for a long time, that's over. And if you're not
Mm-hmm.
cool with that, you can get the fuck out of existence. And
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, he's not The bullet to the head is not what he opens with. You know, he shows up
Right.
with his super soldiers, and he's just kind of like, he's like, I'm gonna give you the chance to come over to my way and see how much better it is, because it is better. But if you don't want to do that, then yeah, you're getting the bullet to the dome. So it's the final church on Terra, which is Earth 30 something thousand years in the future. And it's the final priest in the church. And he's preparing for his midnight sermon or mass or whatever, late at night sermon or mass.
Yeah.
And this stranger comes in, long black hair, pretty physically built. And this guy he had in the animated one, he identifies himself by the name Apocalypse or Apocalypsis.
Apocalypsis. Yeah.
In the actual short story by Graham McNeil, he calls himself Revelation. I don't know
Mm.
why the animator changed it to Apocalypsis, but
I think
whatever.
Revelation's better. Now
Yeah,
that I
it
hear it,
fits better.
it
It's
fits
what
better.
with the Emperor. Yeah,
They're both obviously names made up, and the priest. I want everybody to know the priest was not an idiot. His
no,
very first comment was the thin veiled guys pointing out that you just didn't tell me your name. He says you are aware of the significance of the name Apocalypses,
to a
and he's like,
priest.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, but he was like, it was the priest basically showing his intelligence right off the bat,
yeah,
saying, "Uh-huh, I'm sure that's your name."
yeah. So they enter into, this is obviously the guy with the long black hair, the stranger, is the Emperor, but he doesn't reveal himself right away, because what he's there to do is he actually kind of like admires this priest. He's the last holdout. No matter like,
Yeah,
then they throughout their conversation, we see that like this priest has been alive through a vast majority of the Emperor's unification of Terra, of Earth,
yeah.
and it's all pretty much unified at this point, but this guy's the last holdout. He has refused to shut down his church, and he's still ministering as a priest. And the emperor kind of admires him for that. And the emperor's more like, his stance is like, I want to go see what it is about religion that has made this guy hold out so long. So he goes into the church and he enters into a theological debate. He's obviously arguing atheism, and he has the priest argue religion or theology, and it's a pretty good debate. And then the emperor's not, he doesn't get impatient with him. He's like, this will take as long as it takes. If it takes all night, it takes all night. We're gonna have this discussion. And the priest does get like irritated with him at time to time, but I thought the emperor's demeanor was, for the most part, pretty, like chill. He was just kind of like, we're just talking, dude. Like, yeah, I'm gonna stand my
Yeah,
ground and argue my points, but I'm not gonna bully you. We're gonna have a debate, and
it
that's all this is.
it showed how manipulative the emperor is. Was what I liked. There's two sides to the emperor before we go too far into this, and it needs to be known. The emperor is a coin, and on one side, and they're both true to him. These are both
Right.
true. One side, he's perfect and pure and very nice, a genius. On the other side, he's downright evil, very cruel and manipulative, and can do very dark things.
Right.
And those both exist at the same time, and
They
you can see him prod forward to the maximum where he can prod him and then withdraw just enough to bring him back into the conversation,
right.
and then prod him again as hard as he did before. He never really relents. He will act like he's going to relent and then immediately go back to his pressure, which was
Because
perfect.
he's not gonna relent. In the
Because he's
end,
not
the
going to
emperor's
relent.
gonna get his way because he's the
That's
emperor.
the truth.
But
He'll always go the emperor's way.
the what I liked about it is, I think Graham McNeil, if this, I haven't read the short story, I should. If this
Yeah, me too.
dialogue is if this dialogue is taken straight from the short story, Graham McNeil he nailed the emperor's voice, like, and the
Yeah.
emperor, how the emperor speaks. It's because while like I said, like, it's gonna go his way. He's not overly, like, he doesn't need to be overly like bullying or anything like that. He's like, I know at the end of the day, at the end of all of this, if I want to, I will drag you out of here with my bare hands, and we will set fire to this church. And he's like, but at the same time, I admire you, and I would like to like, someone with your kind of strength of character, I would like to like welcome you into my new way that I'm instilling in humanity, and I would like to find a place for you. He's almost trying to help him in a way, but at the same time, you're right. He's like, but at the same time, if you don't want this place I'm offering you in my new world, then it's gonna be bye
That's too
bye.
damn bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's too damn bad.
and
He's
you're
not
right. It's the both sides. That's both sides of the coin. and they do exist at the same time, but in most instances I've found of the Emperor, or like stories of the Emperor, he offered the nice side first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like Doctor Who, where the Doctor's like, I'm gonna give you one chance.
Yeah.
And
He always
then,
offers his hand before he offers his sword.
yeah,
He doesn't I think it must be the Superman thing. This is what I feel like when I watch him or when I read about him, um, the Emperor. He's a lot like Superman in the sense that everybody he's ever met, he has the thought, oh, there's
easily.
nothing this person could do.
Yeah,
Easily. Well, so why would I ever want to? He gets bored of that idea because he's probably done that a lot.
yeah,
You know, he's not the kind of guy who probably ever walked into a room and just blew a bunch of people's heads off. He probably had people do that for
yeah.
him,
Well,
but
we
it's not
see
beyond him
some
to
of
do
that,
it.
like
We see a little bit of it, yeah.
in some of the backstory that the priest gives about his life, we see that he was during his youth he was part of a rebellion against the Emperor's
Yeah,
unification on Terra, and
good
this is
where
this is yeah, good where this is a good example of how, like the Emperor, yeah, like you said, he's gonna offer his hand to you first, but if push comes to shove, like when that rebellion rose up, they said they were 50,000 strong, normal humans.
yeah.
Uh, the Emperor just and the Emperor was there. We learned
Mm-hmm.
he went out there himself. He sent other of his forces to do it, but he was also there. He was present. He sent 5,000 Thunder Warriors, which are like the first of his superhuman soldiers,
Yeah,
and
they're no
it
joke.
was no challenge. Like
No,
they charged the Thunder Warriors. The Thunder Warriors opened up with bolter fire, and then when the enemy fled because of the bolter fire, it wasn't a okay, let's see if they've learned their lesson. It was and go back to being my loyal subjects. It was nope. These are 50,000 people who have said that they're not. They've shown they're not going to listen to me. So it's
that's a
bye
good.
bye.
That's probably the most accurate portrayal of who the Emperor is. He's very, very one line, and it has a lot to do with the fact that he's got like that Yoda complex from Star Wars, where Yoda would have visions, and then Yoda would base all his actions on the visions he was having. That's a lot like what the Emperor does. The Emperor is a lot better at having visions than Yoda is. Yoda's visions are
Because
like, I see
the
a murky white shape, but
yeah
the Emperor is like, I see the fucking future. I see it all. I see
yeah
the things happening. And
and I loved at the end when the Emperor tells him for the first time, he's like, about his idea for the Great Crusade. He's like, this unification of Terra, that's just the beginning. We're going to go
right.
reclaim all of mankind's lost worlds in the stars. And the priest says something like, didn't you just like tell me of all the atrocities of the Crusades? And the Emperor says something. He says this. He says, the difference is I know I'm right. And that's something in a theological debate that it has come up, but it hasn't, because in any theological debate, it's always been two mortal men debating it, and when one of them says like I know I'm right, everyone usually scoffs and just goes, oh, of course you do. But
Of
in
course, yeah.
this is a weird case which has never been encountered in human history, and it may never. But at the same time, it causes me to think, what if it ever is? Because here we have a guy who he is so supremely intelligent that his brain, through mathematical probability, he can predict that if this happens, it will lead to this, which will then cause this, and he can see it all
And on top of that, he can
at
literally see it all too.
yes,
Sorry, keep going.
in a chain of events. So that's something in a theological debate that we've never seen in real human history, and I don't know if we ever will. But it caused me to go, what if we ever do? And it probably in real life, it probably wouldn't be one person. It would probably be a group of people who are just like incredibly intelligent and wise. And it, if we ever get to that point in human history where we have one or a group of people who really do know that they're right and they can see where things will lead, the rest of humanity's still not going to believe them. And
Never.
that's what's fucked. And whereas you look at the Emperor and you look at him just like, okay, well, if you don't want to believe me, I'm just going to mow you down, and you see it as a tyrant. Well, you're think anyone who sees him as a tyrant, you're thinking in this mentality of he could be wrong. Within the lore 40K, he's not wrong, and he can't be wrong. You know what I
No,
mean? Like,
he's literally not. It's
yeah.
crazy.
The
He
only way
predicted
he
his
can
own death.
the only way he can be wrong is if outside forces meddle and fuck up his idea, which happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. But
I mean, that's what you get when you become a chaos god.
yeah,
You sign on the fucking dotted line.
yeah.
You took some. You know what you're getting into.
Mm.
For those who don't know, Andy said a second ago, it would probably be a group of people who have the powers. That's kind of how it was in the beginning before the Emperor. It was like eight. I think it's eight. I have to look it up. It was like eight shaman who
Yeah.
were the first human psychers after the birth of Slanesh. They were like the first ones, or the ones who could control it, basically, who
Yeah.
didn't devolve into a mutant and kill everyone. They were like normal.
Yeah.
They sacrificed their lives and they channeled it into an infant, and that infant was the Emperor. And when he
That's
grew up, he was like a god.
that's a very commonly accepted origin story for the Emperor, but even
Yeah.
if you look at other parts of the lore and even the Emperor himself saying so, he talks about that
Oh yeah, it's not true.
he's been
It's
with
not true.
humanity since the dawn of it all.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
what really happened was he was a demigod born amongst humans, and he was always like that. But he wasn't that powerful. I mean, he was powerful, more powerful than any human, but not at the level he wanted. So he made a deal with the four chaos gods. This is what I believe to be true. He made a deal with the four chaos gods, and they each gave him a fragment of their power. So he's an embodiment of all of them. All and those, by the way, the chaos gods are just a reflection of living creatures' emotions.
yeah, they
So
are
it would make a lot of sense for him to do
they're
that.
concepts made
Yeah,
they're conscious concepts. It's like
right.
if hate had a consciousness, if hate
Yeah,
was self-conscious, yeah, that's corn. You know what I
that's where
mean?
he got his power
Yeah.
from those guys. He's the embodiment of order, though. I mean,
Yes.
he was always that. That's
Yeah.
something I want to make clear. He wasn't the embodiment of order after going into chaos and getting the power and leaving. He was the embodiment of order when he stepped into the warp and accepted the deal.
Yeah.
So he was able to betray them because he's the living embodiment of order, the
So
opposite of them.
the whole thing about like the eight of the world's best psychers, humans' best psychers, putting their, fusing their consciousnesses into this and power into this infant. When was that supposed to have occurred? So, like, because so
I
I'm
forget
like,
exactly when.
I've never seen definitive sources cited in the lore of 40K that show one way or the other. There's some that say the Emperor was with humanity from its very beginning, and then there's some that, like I said, I've heard the story about like them putting their life into the infant,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, so which one's true? And in this short story, The Last Church, the Emperor implies the other one where he's been with
Yeah.
humanity the whole time because he references ancient history like the
Mm-hmm.
Crusades and stuff like that, and as if he was there and he's seen it. But then
I think
again,
he was.
you could also, people who like the more like the human psychers put their energy into the infant. You could also say like he was there, but he wasn't. He was there in the sense that like he can perceive it and see it,
Right. He's
but
the collection of all of those memories.
yeah,
That might be them. You know what? I'll say this. That and if that's the way it is, it would honestly make both theories true. Because if we define what being there was, it's mostly a collection of memories of
yeah,
that experience.
right,
And if he was infused with those and he believes that it was him, then he was there, right?
right,
Even if he physically wasn't.
yeah,
But there is the possibility that he's just a demigod who was there.
yeah,
And I think the way that he talks and he has this thing that really good fiction writers get right, which is I think the calm of immortality. When you're immortal
yeah,
and you're unkillable,
yeah,
you calm down a lot.
yeah, because you're
You're
safe
around
and
for
everything's chill.
yeah.
You're like no,
Everything is happening at rapid speed to you because you can live for a million years. So
yeah,
1 year to you is a freaking second.
yeah,
You're like, I had nothing to do. That's a year. What am I supposed to do with 1 year? And a
yeah,
human's like, a year, I could do all these things. And he's like, no, 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 you don't understand. The concepts that I'm trying to impart happen in the span of decades, of
right,
centuries.
and
To create
that's
Thunder Warriors took forever.
yeah, and that's another thing with the Emperor's philosophy and ideology is when the priest talks about before he even knows that he's talking to the Emperor, and he talks about like has he traveled the world in his youth and he saw people bowing to the emperor and waving the emperor's
Right.
banner, but he's like they were doing it out of like a feeling of obligation because they didn't want to get fucking murdered. They weren't really doing it because, but that's the emperor going, yeah, but that's a small fraction of time. Sooner or later, if I can just keep it going long enough, sooner or later, other newer generations will be born under my banner, and them having grown up with it and not known any different, they will be like, oh yeah, this is fine. You know what I mean? It's just,
It's
it's
true.
just,
I'm American. You're American. We
yeah,
lived that exact existence.
yeah. It's just the people who are alive when the takeover occurs. They're gonna be a little bitter
Hmm.
about the change being forced upon them. But the newer generations who grow up with it are gonna. That's all that they will have known. And as long as the change is for the better, then it's like, who really cares? And there are
Yeah.
so many good quotes and lines by the emperor. I love the one where when they're talking about religion is used as a way to like soothe the dying and the people who are mourning the loss of other people, and the emperor is just like, well, if they're going to this paradise that you tell them they're going to, why are they upset about their death to begin with? Wouldn't they be
Right.
kind of
Rise and
like,
it's celebrated.
yeah, why aren't they more like, oh, I'm
Hmm.
about to go there, sweet,
Yeah.
let's get this show on the road. And for the people mourning their loss, it's like, yeah, you're never going to get to see them again, but why are you not more like, oh, they get to go to paradise? And he says something along the lines of like, maybe it's because in their heart of heart, he's like, it's because in their heart of hearts they know that it's just a belief and there's no
Right.
factual evidence to support it, and that's why they're still upset. And the priest counters with like, yeah, but it's still a powerful way to help people in that time. And the emperor's just like, yeah, but I would rather, he's like, wouldn't it be better for less people to die overall due to the removal of religion rather than have every zealot die with a smile on their
With a
face?
smile on his face.
Yeah,
I
and
do like. I do feel like one thing I want to add. The priest has a good quick back to the emperor. There's always a good response until the end. It's a build up, right?
yeah,
So this whole thing is the emperor has a point, the priest has an equally good counterpoint until the emperor whittles it down.
yeah,
That's what made this great. So he mentions back to that. He says, "Are you ever excited to leave your family for an opportunity? Are you ever excited to travel away from home when you know that you might not ever see the people you're leaving behind again?" He says, "No, you're not. Nobody is excited to go into the unknown," which I think was an interesting slip up on the priest's part. He says, "Nobody is excited to go into the unknown," but he's standing there espousing his belief in an afterlife and all these things, but he uses the phrase unknown,
yeah.
venture into the unknown. That's an interesting slip up, in my opinion. And I think one the emperor was working really hard to get him to say
That's an
on his own.
admission of, I
Yeah,
don't really know. I'm telling you I
exactly.
know, but I just said
But
I
I
don't
don't.
really know.
Yep.
And
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 the emperor is
that's,
saying, I do know that there is not this thing.
yeah.
In this universe, I'm telling you for a fact, I know there's no afterlife. And the one that you're thinking of, you don't want. Like, that's he's trying to show him.
Yeah.
Because remember, everybody who doesn't really watch 40K or only knows a little bit about it, remember that there is an afterlife. There is 100%. The emperor knows about it. It's real. It's just not a fucking good place to go. You
Yeah.
don't want to go there. Human beings who don't believe in the warp or any sort of afterlife, they don't get sucked into just some random spot in the warp. They
Right.
get pulled into. We don't actually know. Okay, we don't
Right.
actually know, but we believe that the emperor has created a little bubble of order in there, and that's where you go. That's where the souls of the Imperium go. It's like a little bubble of safety where he
Right.
pulls your soul in for
And
whatever
he and
fucking
he in the
reason.
warp protects you for all of
Yeah,
eternity. Yeah.
because he is more powerful than all of the Chaos Gods put together. That is
Yeah.
also a fact.
Yeah.
If any one of them tried to fight him, they would lose. If all four of them tried to fight him, they would lose. So
Right.
it's like he can do what he wants, but
And
he's
if
right.
and if he can remove superstition from the psyche of the human race,
Right.
then when they die, the we're getting into like 40K theology here, which
Right.
is fine, but it's
Right.
like the pull and the influence of the forces of chaos when they will have less pull over you. It's like, you can't be, people who've never done heroin are not tempted by the addiction of
Right.
heroin. You know what I mean? Yeah, but
Yeah, Nurgle isn't gonna whip your soul down into the rock gardens, and Zinch isn't gonna pull you into the eternal library. Like None of that's going to happen to anyone. Nobody is going to go inherently to any one chaos god or to their realm. They would
If
just
the
go to the
emperor had
warp.
his way.
Right. You would
Yeah.
just go to the warp.
Right.
And then, well, even before the emperor, your soul would just go to the warp when you died. And humans, I don't think we did until the great, until the Eye of Terror opened up and like we were exposed to it or something like that. I don't remember how that works. But it's like we didn't necessarily go anywhere until we were psychic and could feel the warp. And then we
Right.
had a presence in it. And then we could get sucked into it. So it became more important to deal with that as time went on. But the thing is, like, the Emperor wanted to make it clear we have psychic powers now. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That means more than you understand. This religion thing in this universe, plus psychics, is going to result in catastrophe
Yes.
if we don't nip this in the bud. Because
Because then
those
you
those
will,
beings
when
will
you,
then,
yeah, they'll be like,
yeah,
oh, this person was very, hateful and greedy in their life, and
yeah,
now the chaos powers are going to be looking at them with their looking at their little flame of their soul in the warp and being like, oh, I want that one.
I will
Yeah.
take that. Yeah,
Yeah. But
and there's nothing you can do to stop them.
but if they go into the warp, they die, being nothing but just like order and science, and then it's almost like they will be unnoticeable to they won't
They're
even
not. There's nothing
register.
for those gods.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's nothing for them
There's
in that
nothing to
soul.
feed them. Yeah. So
No, they feed on emotions. That's another thing. But
yeah.
we'll get off the chaos gods.
Yeah.
So like, for the emperor to be, so this just puts weight behind the reasoning of the emperor specifically choosing religion. I think also it's important to note that the emperor has a specific quote attached to him that's really sums up his views on religion. He says that the world will only be free, the human race will only be free when the last stone of the last church falls on the last priest, which is fitting for the ending of this
That comes from this
particular
story.
thing. Oh,
It
does it? Okay.
yeah, and in modern, like in present day 40K, the story of this priest, a lot of people have it wrong. They actually do think that the emperor like cast the church down upon
Yeah.
this guy, when in reality, like, so the ending is weird. The ending is
Mhm.
because the emperor finally he breaks this guy down to where like he's in tears. The priest walks away, goes back down to like his altar and just starts praying and like sermonizing to himself. And the emperor's just like, there's no one here to hear you. And then the priest gets mad and he's just like, I don't care, enough of this game. And the emperor's just like, okay, fine, enough games. And then
Such a cool scene.
the dude turns around and he sees, oh shit, this is the exact thing that I saw on the field that day, which means I am wrong. But
Yep.
even though he now knows that he was wrong, he says, he's like, at worst, I've lived my life in a lie. At best, it's just been a misunderstanding. And the emperor's just like, it's okay though, dude. Like, now you know. Come with me.
Right.
I'm gonna give you a place. People like you are needed in my world. Come with me. And the guy still chooses to go, you know what? No. Even he's like, I don't want to do that. Even though it was a lie, even though it was nonsense, it still brought me peace. I still know that I helped bring peace to other people psychologically, and I think I'll just let it be done there. And he walks back into the burning church and dies with his church. He did it of
Mm-hmm.
his own accord,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting. I honestly didn't know which way it was going to go at the end there, if he was going to go with the emperor or not.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
It does reaffirm a few points the emperor made that religion makes you a little bit, not a little bit, religion makes you stubborn. It makes you unwilling to change to new information because you're expected to take this on faith. That the basis of this is not information, it's speculation.
yeah,
And that when information is presented to you that counters what you've been told,
yeah.
you often will dismiss it out of hand because it doesn't fit with your narrative.
Because
And
faith,
at the very end, he held true to that
yeah,
and died because of stubbornness,
yeah.
honestly. The emperor revealed to him that the God's face that he spent his whole life worshiping was
The
him.
the core of his belief. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So just so you guys know, you should watch it. But there's a scene in this bit in this animated comic where this guy is dying on the battlefield of Gedwere,
Guevara.
where he had taken a piece of bone into the back of his skull.
Shrapnel or something, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the guy said it was a piece of bone after later on. The Emperor pulled it out of his head, I guess.
Yeah.
I forget exactly how he knew that it was a piece of someone's bone, but it had gone into his head. It's fucked up.
And he looks up and it's...
He sees a shining, golden, radiant being. He describes him in like as the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Right.
Clearly the face of God. And
but
then
it's important to note, at that point, this priest had not been introduced to this religion that he became a priest of. He just saw this dude on the battlefield. Then, not too long after that, he encountered the other priest in the town, and that dude told him his story, and he immediately went, that must be what I saw on the battlefield. You know?
Which was another point the Emperor made. That religion often makes people infer things where there is nothing to infer.
You just made
that there's a logical
for
explanation.
No reason. Yeah, you just...
He kept challenging him to be like, yes, but think back to that moment again. Think about it again. Like, think about it.
I'm right here, dude. Like, just fucking like.
He was like, just think one more time about.
Take a good look.
Just really trying to be like, just remember that moment. Take away the superstition and remember the moment again. And he just wouldn't do it, which was another point towards the Emperor saying it makes you stubborn.
Because that's not necessarily a bad thing,
right? It doesn't change.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he revealed himself to him showed him that he was that there is no look.
I am the thing. Yeah, I am the thing that caused you to believe in
that priest said something really smart that was totally true. He said, "I hope that someday they don't worship you as a god." And I was like, "They're gonna."
It
was interesting that he thought that.
That goes back to in the emperor's thinking, he was like, that's not going to happen. I have a plan to make sure that never happens. And that goes back to my thing of like, the emperor's plan is solid. The only way it's not going to work exactly the way he thinks it's going to work is if outside forces actively fuck it up. And the way the emperor was thinking about it was, I mean, the emperor, this is kind of like, how did this genius emperor not think of this? But it's like, how did he not contemplate the idea of like, well, you know, the Chaos Gods might steal away my 20 super soldier children and disperse them across the chaotic, you know, remnants of the human empire and in the stars, and that could fuck up my plan. But that won't happen. Don't worry about that.
That won't happen. No.
Yeah. And then it did.
And then it fucking did. Like, dude, the Emperor is so genius, and he falls prey to the simplest machinations of chaos every time. It's always a simple, and that's the reason, right? He overthinks things, and then the simplest thing happens. He's like, I'm waiting for the sniper shot, and it's just a dude with a knife about to stab him, and he's not even looking down. So, another thing you could think of is, I have all these legions of Thunder Warriors, and they don't have Primarchs, and they do everything I say and are hyper successful. But I can't have Thunder Warriors because they're too savage. So I've made these Astartes. Now I need to make, for whatever reason, 20
he made the Primarchs first, and then he made the Astartes from the Primarchs.
But they were still little gestating babies.
Yes.
When the Astartes came out. So he could have totally scrapped that plan. He had the gene seed from each one of them.
Yeah.
He already had it. And he was making legions that were distinct from one another because of the gene seed they had.
Yes.
And we're talking pure gene seed. Yeah. So no chaos mutations, no fucked up shit yet.
Right.
Just pure good old fashioned Space Marines. He could have just been like, I don't think I need 20 demigods who are just as smart as me, only 3/4 as powerful, but that's pretty fucking powerful.
Well,
maybe I don't need those.
He wanted the 20. I get what you're saying, and once they were lost because chaos like threw them away, that might have been a viable solution. But he wanted the 20 because his intention originally was, I'm not going to lead the Great Crusade. Right. They are. I'm gonna stay here on Terra. I'm gonna stay here on Terra and fuck around with science and shit. They're gonna lead the Great Crusade. It just ended up that since they got scattered and lost, he had to take time away and do that himself. And so
he was such a super genius too that when the Webway is a thing that the Eldar made, just so you guys can look it up if you care. But it's like the warp, but you don't have to go in the warp.
The old ones actually made it.
That's right. That's right. It was the old. You're right. It was the old ones. The old ones made it, and the Eldar are the only ones who like know how to work it perfectly. And even then, they don't.
Because the old ones made the Eldar,
because they made the Eldar. They made
and the Quarks, and they made the old.
Oh, dude, the Quarks were so smart and terrifying. Holy fucking shit, dude! You do not want to fight a Quark. Fuck that shit, dude. They're Space Marines without armor who are as strong as Space Marines
Yeah.
and smarter than
And
Primarchs, and
Psychers.
they will fuck you up. And Psychers.
Yeah.
They were the most powerful Psychers.
That
They
was
were like
the
destructive
old
nukes.
one's defense against the Necron and the Catan invasion.
And it worked, dude. They were really smart. People who like the orcs, I want you all to know that they have been selectively bred to be this stupid. That the original Krorks were hyper intelligent, way smarter than any other race. They made humans look stupid. They had like plasma guns that shot bullets and like were master psychers and could do horrible things to you from a distance. They could make like nukes from their brains. Like they were just nuts, dude.
Yeah.
They were nuts.
Yeah.
So they invented the webway, the old ones, and then the Eldar used it a lot. And the Emperor found out about it because he's a genius. Yeah. And instead of just being like, oh, I'll just use the one that exists, I'll just use that. He was like, no. Humans rule this shit now, and let's make that clear. This is humans now. I'm gonna build. You heard me right. This technology that no one knows how it works, I figured it out. I'm gonna build more of it, and it's gonna connect right to my palace. Yep. And nobody told them that was a bad idea. Nobody stopped them and was like, hey, Emps, we just want to sit down and have a chat. You're like, yeah, sure. Please have a seat at my 2 big chairs because they're made for me. And they sit down, and he's like, so what's the problem, guys? And they're like, hey, is that a portal? That? Yeah, that's a portal. Where does that go? To the webway. Is there anything in there? Oh, yeah, tons of stuff. Is that a problem? I mean, it's a little bit of a problem, but don't worry, I'll solve it. Well, shouldn't you put it like on the moon then? Because it's like right by Earth and not on Earth? Yeah. It's like, no, right in the middle of my palace. That seems bad. We just like Tom, right? Like that seems bad. We're worried about that. And he's like, no, don't worry about that. Like, but couldn't you just put it on the moon? Like,
this is like the fucking Family Guy when they Star Wars, where it's like there's this tiny little hole, and if you shoot a photon blast into it, the whole station blows up. Stewie's like, whoa, that sounds like a pretty big design flaw here.
Yeah.
Can we at least board it up or something? Put some plywood on it. We'll get estimates. Yeah, get estimates.
Get estimates. That's exactly what's happening here. They're just like, look, man. We don't know what's going to come through there, but we're relatively sure something is going to come through there. Yeah. He's like, I am the Emperor. I can handle it. And they're like, all right, fine. Yeah. And then literally that exact thing came true. And demons, you can look it up. Demons are constantly trying to come through the portal that the Emperor put in his own house. It's like you move into a house where there's a ton of gun crime.
Right? And they just
Yeah. So on the Custodes. Custodians are so fucking broken. It's like the Emperor is such an asshole to all the super soldiers. If you're not a Custodes, he hates you. That's a fact. Yeah. If he made you a Space Marine, he thinks that you are dirt. And if he made you a Custodes, he's like, that Gordon Ramsay meme? It's like, oh, my beautiful boy, my beautiful. He's like, you fucking donkey. Yeah. The Space Marines are there, you fucking donkey, and the Custodes are like, you are my beautiful baby. Yeah. Like
why did he stop why weren't they just all Custodes? Like
they're so hard to make.
I guess
there's like a super low survival rate for being a Custodes for one. They're more powerful than Thunder Warriors, which is absurd. And they spend 90% of their day standing in the webway, constantly killing hordes of demons, like every kind imaginable that are trying to. They're just like 6 of them in a line, just killing them all day, every day. I swear to God, they must be standing there like this, just be like, "Is the Emperor alive yet? Can I come out of the portal?" They're like, "No. You stand here. You kill these things forever." And he's like, "Yeah, but I live forever, so that's like you're not hearing yourself." And he's like, "No. I heard myself. You." Who live forever are going to stand here forever and kill those forever.
That's why we're giving the job to you.
Yeah, he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't realize it.
And then he's like, all right, some of you are going to get some other shit done. But anyway.
Yeah, Guilliman's amazing. Anyway, so.
My question, my thing with the Last Church. This is going to be difficult for us to do, but I want us to try. One of the major criticisms of this story is that, from a theological debate perspective, is that while it is supposed to be a debate between a priest and an atheist, it is written by one man who is clearly on the side of, like, he's a 40K fan, and he's Graham McNeil. It's the Emperor. But it's written by one man. A lot of people are like, I think it would have been a better debate if you'd actually gotten, like, another author who is themselves religious to write the priest's counter-argument parts rather than just have one dude write it. What do you think about that? Like, do you think it was
That's
still
ridiculous.
do you think it was still a solid debate? Do you think there was anything missing?
No, no. First of all, it was a solid debate. There's no
Yeah,
debating that. Watch it. People who
yeah,
disagree, watch it.
yeah.
He, it's 40K. We had established this in the beginning. It's a known fact. Before you start reading 40K, if you're hyper religious, don't. I'm telling you, like,
Unless you just
don't
want to like
because
the Horus Heresy to Gwilliman
yeah,
returning portion, because that's right up your alley. But
that's fine. Yeah, but
yeah,
don't. The rest is not for you.
yeah,
It's it's just that way.
yeah,
Religion is not okay. Like they don't like it. All of them.
yeah,
The Imperial Iterators, the Space Marines. A good book to start off would be the first Garvio Loken book. They go deep into the
yeah.
Iterators talking about the Imperial truth and what it
Horus
means.
Rising,
Horus Rising, yeah.
yeah.
Read the three. There's three in that little
Horus
stretch.
Rising, something else, and then Galaxy in Flames.
Yeah, read
What
those,
was
and
what
there's a
was the second
great.
one called?
I can't think of it honestly.
Fuck. Oh well.
I'll look them up in a minute, but
Yeah.
they're really good. They explain the Imperial truth really well. I think I haven't read all the Great Crusade books,
I'm
but
gonna
those
start
delve
reading
into
the
it.
Horus Heresy and the prior books. Like that's where I want to
Yeah,
get into now.
I
Like,
read the Ahriman or the Magnus the Red book. That one was really good. The one about the Thousand Suns. I mean, all the Horus Heresy stuff I think is the best 40K lore and literature and all that. It's just so good.
probably because
It's just the
there's
best.
not to go back to our topic we did in our previous 40K video, but it it had a plot. You know, it had a
Yeah,
real. It wasn't just in the grim darkness of the far future. There's only war.
right.
It was, and there was war, of course. It's a civil war within
It
the
was
Imperium,
it was Great Crusade too. You know, like
and
you were still getting a bit of that.
there was a protagonist. There was a person you were truly meant. It wasn't this like modern 40K is none of the factions are really the good guys, so just pick the one you like the most. Horus
Right.
Heresy and prior to Horus Heresy was these guys, these ones right here. These are the good guys. These are the
Yeah.
ones you're meant to root for. And I like that a bit better than just. I understand that the whole not really having a good guy faction goes along with the game that it stems from,
Right.
but in terms of having a narrative and a story and a lore that people are going to follow, you need a narrative. And in order to have a good narrative, you need a protagonist or a protagonist organization. Otherwise, it's just
Right.
like you're just reading. Like I found my Space Marine Battles book back in at home when I was there. It was in one of my boxes of stuff, and it was about the Dark Angels. And I thought about taking it back here and reading it, and I was just like, this is just a random battle that the Dark Angels fought. Like that's it. They Dark Angels come, fight orcs, big battle, the end. Nothing changes. No great revelation. No forwarding of a plot. It's just a story of a battle and a war, and that's fine. And a lot of people are like, that's what 40K is. And if you don't like that about 40K, then 40K is not for you. I'm like, you know, it started out
Yeah,
like
I disagree with that.
if you go chronologically throughout the timeline of the lore, it started out with a clear protagonist and a clear good guy and a clear plot. Then we entered this
Yeah.
10,000 fictional year time frame where there was no real plot. And now what's happening? It's moving at a snail's pace, but Guilliman's back and there's a real plot and things are moving forward in an actual direction now again, which I'm happy about. Like,
Yeah.
I wish they'd speed it up a
I
little
don't like
bit, but
Primaris Marines. I I have a thing. I have a thing about Marines, Space Marines in general, where there's a certain level of superhuman where when you go beyond it, it's just like, you know, you can't make it that much different. Like
yeah.
if you don't make them as powerful as the Thunder Warriors, then it doesn't matter because a Space
Well,
Marine is only slightly less powerful than one.
yeah.
And so if you make a Primaris, are they as powerful as Thunder Warriors? According to the lore, no.
Yeah.
So
Well,
then they didn't upgrade them that much, right?
Right.
They're not custodians, so
No.
what's the point of them?
In that regard, so here's the thing. Both of the figures that I've got, and even the Bondi ones that I've talked about, they're all Primaris Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really care because, like you said, are they a little amped up than normal Space Marines?
Yeah,
Bit.
a little bit.
I feel like
I don't hate them.
More than like an actual like lore change. I think it was just meant to be an aesthetic change. I think it was an excuse to go rather than just Belisarius Call being like, guys, I made new Space Marine armor. They said let's just have him go ahead and make because this was a way to sell new models.
Right.
You know, it's a new.
It was a whole new thing.
Rather than just having to, it's like rather than it just being new armor. In which case, like, yeah, that would sell the models, because if you want Space
Right.
Marines in the new arm, it was a way to sell new rule books, because it's a whole new
Right.
unit now and they play a bit differently. So it's more just an aesthetic choice. At the end of the day, I don't really hate them because one, they're like you said, it's not a big change. They're still pretty much just Space Marines.
Yeah,
Two, I do think I know you like the old school helmet of the Space Marine.
I
I
do.
like the Primaris look. I think it's a little sleeker. It's a little cleaner.
Yeah.
I
I don't
like the
hate
Prime.
the helmet.
Yeah,
I just there's something about the voice grill on the old
I like
helmets
it.
that just does it for me.
I like it. But I mean, whatever. Agree to disagree. It's
I do like the chest plates of the Primaris more. The
yeah,
segmented centers in the abdomen make more sense than just the black cabling
yeah,
that the other ones had. I like a lot of the things. It's just that they weren't significantly different for me. But when you
right.
talk about the lore and the game, they're fun. The
Yeah,
thing about Primaris lore is it's actually pretty solid. They did a really, really smart thing lore wise where they made Primaris Marines inexperienced. Even though technically they're better warriors,
yeah,
they're inexperienced.
right.
So it left a lot of room for, like, for instance, my initial dislike came from loving Ragnar and all the Space Wolf heroes like Sven and all those people who are basically just uh, normal Space Marines.
Right.
Even though they've done insane things and are super cool, I was expected to believe that a Primaris Space Wolf is better than Ragnar. And I was like, fuck no,
No,
he's
it's
not.
not. Yeah, it's
And
not.
then they clarified that by being like, and he's not. And I
Yeah,
was like, okay, cool, that's fine with me. Like
yeah,
they make inexperienced mistakes. That's something I find
yeah,
interesting. They fight like blood claws, even though they're armored like lieutenants and they're like, better warriors. They fight like blood claws. They fight like newbies,
yeah.
and that fits.
It
That's
does.
cool.
It does fit. And but yeah, it was for me. I look at it as the only time I get mad at changes to fandoms is when the change results in a negative outcome. If the change results in a positive outcome, I'm cool with it. And if
Yeah,
the change results in really no new outcome, then I'm also okay with it because nothing really changed. And that's the way
yeah,
I look at Primaris Marines. It's like, yeah, they have some new armor. Oh, that's about
yeah.
it.
That's kind of how I feel. I think
Yeah,
they're maybe that's where it stems from. Is a little bit bored with the fact that they introduced this new thing, but it doesn't do anything. Like,
yeah,
didn't really change anything. It could have.
yeah.
Like, Chaos doesn't have Primaris Marines. I don't point
No.
that out. So
But
there's
maybe,
that.
like you said, lore wise, once they get some experience, then we will see the
Right.
change. But I don't know, trying to
I'm looking for the sorry.
circle us back to the last church. Uh, so I don't know. I mean, like, what else is there to say other than like it was really good. I liked it. But yeah, other than like that, other than just that one criticism, I do agree with what you said. I thought it was pretty well argued. All of the arguments that the priests made or counter arguments to what the emperor was saying, that's pretty standard counter arguments and arguments that you will hear religious people make in a debate. Pretty much what they say. The
Yeah.
only one that you rarely hear is the one he got to at the end where he's like, where you mentioned he says like, are you ever happy to go into the unknown? You don't really.
Right.
That's something you. If you're hopefully it's a civilized debate, but if you're
Right.
debating a religious person about theology, uh, you gotta dig to get to that to get them to use the word unknown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's
They
not
would
something.
refer to heaven or things like that before
Yeah,
they said unknown. So
because
it was
once they
proof
say
of how smart the
unknown,
emperor
it's
was.
that's an admission that it's
Yeah.
unknown, and it's like, well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
didn't you say your faith tells you what it is, but you
Yeah.
just said
Didn't you
unknown?
say
Yeah.
you saw your God's face? Like, why would you ever have any doubts if you've
Why would you use
had
the
this
word
much?
unknown?
Why
Yeah,
exactly? Why would you choose that word? It's
yeah,
it's fascinating to realize that we're all very fragile. All our
yeah,
beliefs are held on a little tiny shelf. Anybody can walk by and swap them down, but it's a matter of, do you clean it up and put it right back, or is it different now? Has it changed?
yeah,
I think the emperor was an example of a particular person meeting a particular type of person who, speaking to someone like that who is so smart and yet so calm, it's hard to hate them when they make these points. And I feel like religious people must feel a little bit of a pull to try to bring you into their religion.
yeah,
It's a concept I don't fully understand, because maybe religious people can help me understand this one, because I don't believe in God, but I also don't like go up to people and try to be like, don't you understand
atheism's
that?
the way. Like,
Yeah, like,
yeah.
don't you understand that, like, there's no God because
Well,
there's
it's
no proof and
twofold.
like I can't hear him, like.
It's twofold in my experience. Both being, I was raised religious. Like my parents
Yeah.
took me to church every Sunday. It it didn't stop until I was about like 17 and I started like getting my first part-time job, and that was around the age where it's like it started out with like, well, if I was scheduled to work on a Sunday or a Saturday night, then like, like, if I didn't make it to church, I didn't make it to church because I was working. And then from there into college, I was living on my own, and it just like it stopped being a thing. But for the
Right.
first almost 20 years of my life, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I can tell you it's twofold. It's one, and this is the positive idea behind it, and I think I would like to believe that this is most people's reasoning for. I'm trying to find a better way, like a nicer way to like
Conversion,
converting
maybe.
people, trying to bring people into their religion. The reason for it is their religion teaches that that's a good thing to do. You're saving people by bringing them in. So
Right.
they don't look at it as like a negative thing. They look at that as by them trying to bring you into their religion, they're helping you. They're doing you a favor. They're saving you. The second thing is, and this is the more negative one, is the more people they can convince, the more reaffirmed they feel. And
That's the one I've always. I don't know
yeah,
why. I just that's the one I've always felt when I've been people trying to convert me.
yeah,
I have my girlfriend in New York was Catholic, and I went to church with her because that's Catholics go to church more than anyone. I fully believe that, and I would
I don't know,
go all
man.
the time.
So like
I mean, I actually have only
Catholicism
been
is
to Catholic church. The more I
Catholicism.
think about it,
Yeah, the Catholicism is a subdivision of, or no, yeah, Catholicism is a subdivision of Christianity, and there are a lot of different
yeah.
forms of Christianity. I've dated a girl that was a Southern Baptist, and theirs was more than just Sunday morning. It was Sunday morning plus like Wednesday night Bible school, and there was a summer camp involved every year, and yeah, like
Some sounds rough. I
I
don't
mean,
think I could
she
do that.
liked it. She
Oh, well,
had,
that's
yeah,
true.
she was fine with going. But then again, it was one of those things where like she'd been raised that way. She didn't know anything different.
Yeah,
So, I mean, everyone's
my
all,
experiences with church were with you
yeah,
and Joan, so Catholic.
yeah, and it's I can't walk into a church anymore without being like it's very Imperial Creed like in here, like you
Yeah.
know what I mean, like, but
Hmm.
yeah,
Can't
it's
quite put my finger on why this is uncomfortable.
it's so crazy to me, and I think this is one of the reasons why Warhammer 40K, in the times that I've tried to just like forget about it and not be into it, something that always draws me back is that it's not just like I said, it's not just a short-term prediction of humanity's future. It's a very long-term prediction, and there are super fictional elements to it, like the warp
Yeah.
and the warp and psychic ability. But there's a lot of it that's not so fictitious, and I can't help but look at it and go, this is a solid prediction. If you take away all the warp and the psychic and the magic and stuff, it's like this is a solid prediction. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. No one can know what's gonna happen, but it's a solid prediction of what could be to come in the human future,
Yeah.
and that's
Humans think we're the
appealing.
good guys. I
Yeah,
think it's interesting that we think that. I don't know why we think that. I think that if you applied, just for those that think we're the good guys, just remember all the weapons we use right now are all we've got. So if we fought anything else, it's with the same weapons. Can
yeah,
you imagine coming from a planet, let's say, that really quickly learned how to harness energy in many different ways?
yeah,
And so there isn't a whole lot of blood in their combat. It's like, oh, a burn hole and he's dead,
yeah,
like, or everything gets incinerated
yeah.
by super
Quickly.
hot plasma,
Yeah.
quick. And then you come to Earth and we shoot really fast metal at each other.
And
And our
stab the
bombs
shit
are,
out of
and
people.
we literally stab each other. And if our stabby thing breaks or gets stuck in the guy, we'll just pull our two hands up and just beat that person. If we possibly can,
Yeah.
we will try to beat that person to death. Like, we will not give up until our hands break. And then we'll use our feet. And when our feet break, we'll beat you with our head until we die. Like,
Yeah.
humans are insane.
Yeah.
And so if we went into space, even if we met an equally warlike species, there is no species more warlike than we are. They're
we,
just
we hope. Like, maybe.
I hope. Whoa, shit. But I mean, honestly, can't even imagine more warlike than us. So if we went into space with the things we've got and religion, you can see why it would be rough having super soldiers and religion and the word crusade all in the same mouthful.
Yeah.
You just, it's such a terrifying door to open to give a lot of people who believe they're right a window to show other people how right they are with their sword. Like
Yeah.
we've done that a lot in
Yeah.
history.
Oh yeah.
We've proven we want to do that.
Yeah.
So you can see that this comic is an attempt at the Emperor to pull out the better parts of humanity from
Right.
us and push away the dark parts. And it has less to do with religion itself and more to do with the frame of mind it puts the people in.
Yes.
He was trying to explain to this guy the future, which is like explaining color to a blind person.
Right.
He was unable to impart
Well,
what he saw
that's what I
to
taught.
this guy.
That's what I mentioned. It's like in real human history and potential what's to come. Who knows if we will ever encounter a human with that level of intellect to where it's like we've never encountered a human who I can't say that knows that there's people who know that they're right about specific topics. We've never encountered a human that can predict the future so accurately that they know it's fact and
Right.
and then this little animation does a really good job of showing like even if that were to ever come, there's going to be people who are even this guy is intelligent enough and powerful enough to know what the future holds and know it for fact, and people still won't believe them. It's kind of like I used to always make a joke. It was like about like Christianity. It's like if Jesus ever came for the second coming, it's like you wouldn't believe it's him. You'd start demanding that he perform miracles to prove it, and at that point, it's like you're
Thou
like,
shalt not make demands of thy God. It's in the
not
fucking
test thy
Bible.
God and shit
You
like
test
that.
thy God.
But then again, like that, it's like yeah, but if we don't test, we're opening ourselves up to false prophets. It's like yeah, that's the it's this huge
There's
dilemma.
the danger.
Yeah, and man, this thing was good. It was really good.
What I liked a lot about it was the argument I always want to hear from an atheist who has gotten into a willing argument with a religious person.
Yeah.
I see a lot of arguments that are definitely not willing and are
Right.
one-sided, and I think those are bullshit on
Yeah.
both sides.
Right.
Cornering someone is fucked up. Everyone keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So what he did was instead of cornering the guy, he would back off when he felt like the guy was in a corner.
Right.
That allowed breathing room for this
Yes.
man's thoughts. It allowed him to get to the word unknown.
Yeah.
This is how smart the Emperor is, okay?
Yeah.
He knew the minute he walked in the door that he was going to convince this guy that he was right. He
Right.
knew it.
Yeah.
He didn't know how. I believe that.
Right.
He didn't know how he was going to do it, but he knew he could, and he was
Yeah.
going to follow his gut. And he did that. And he managed to convince this man. And at the end, when the dude kills himself, you could see a little bit of relief on the Emperor's face, a little tiny bit. Because to him, it was not what he wanted, but it was a victory of sorts.
Yeah.
The last church was gone. The last priest
Right.
was dead.
And that's
So
that and something that this I want to clarify with this is the fact that it is the last church and the last priest allows him this more patient
yeah,
way of doing this. People go, okay, well, what if he didn't apply this level of patience and civilized discussion to all the other priests, and we got to go, yeah, but that's the thing though. It's like let's just hypothetically here think into the future. We human race, we encounter a guy, a girl, a group of people who are that intelligent and they know what's what. It's gonna go down this way. They can't.
Yeah.
They like at a certain. They can't. What are they supposed to just be patient and wait for every? If we really encounter people, this is what I kind of see for the future. Looking at this, it's like sooner or later, someone or a group of people are gonna develop the Emperor's attitude of like not fucking around. Like,
Yeah.
look, we're not fucking around. We're getting like enough is enough. We're getting this shit done, and it's not gonna happen without bloodshed. Like it's just fucking not. Like and that's sad. But fuck.
Yeah.
The good
It's
news
sad
is
because-
probably not in our lifetime. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
probably not.
Yeah.
Humans, there is the thing about humans. This is something we all have to acknowledge. The Emperor acknowledged it. He doesn't acknowledge it directly in this, but in his life, humans are savage, partially. It's just part of who we are.
Right.
Part of it rests right back here. We're civilized now. We civilized ourselves. We did that to ourselves. That's a testament to human will.
But even
We
that
took
required
that and
bloodshed.
required excessive domination of huge swaths of land and the deaths of millions of people to create these civilizations, right? But in the end, I think we would all probably agree that the civilization part of it was good and was worth
like we said,
this.
we are examples of
Yeah,
like I said, the newer generations who were born into it and being born into it and not really knowing what we not living, we know it through
right,
teaching history, but not
right.
having lived what we came from. We're kind of like every time I take a shower, a hot shower, it's been a long day at work and I'm grimy and nasty and I jump in the shower and I clean myself and I feel refreshed. I'm like, thank God we got to this point. And I just said thank
Yes.
God, but you know what I mean? Like,
But
yeah.
that's an example of being born in America, and we have a lot of these expressions. I forget what they're called. Idioms, I think,
I
which is
mean,
like if
people
you
all
try
over
to
the
speak
world
French,
use
it
that.
wouldn't
Like,
fit.
thank God for
Yeah,
the, yeah.
yeah.
Like, it's just a common,
Literally,
but you
other
know,
languages will say "thank God." They'll
yeah,
say it in English.
you know what I mean. Like, I'm just like, I'm so grateful that what happened through history to get us to this point where I have all of these conveniences. I'm glad it happened. Like, do I if I could if I had the means to go back in time and make it happen more peacefully with less violence and heartbreak and bloodshed, I would. But I can't. I'm a normal human dude living in 2021. I don't have that power. All I can do
Mm-mm.
is be grateful or not be grateful for where I am. And I'm grateful. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, yeah. So,
I think, dude. I think about like if you had wishes, what would you wish for? I'm like, okay, I want magic powers and I want the TARDIS because I want to go back in time to all those horrible battles, come out of my TARDIS, freeze them all in place, be like, fucking stop that shit.
yeah.
Stop that shit.
Yeah.
Look what I just did. Stop that shit. I'll be back. And then I just leave.
Yeah.
And I'll do that to all the worst battles, all the most atrocious things that ever happened in history. And I guarantee the world wouldn't be better. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It wouldn't be better. It would be the
Yeah.
same because
Yeah.
that's human savagery.
Yeah.
It's part of our DNA and
It's
it
like
doesn't go away.
one of the emperors basically the emperor is trying to express to this guy like well one he's like you said like he's trying to express to him the future but like at its core it's the emperor saying look the only way humanity progresses is if the more qualified expert people have their guiding hands on the shoulders of the less qualified and it's a chain you know like
Yeah.
everyone is more qualified and more intelligent than someone else but it's as long as it goes down as long as the more qualified have their hands on the shoulders of the less qualified, guiding them, things
Right.
work out. But it's when the less qualified feel the hand on their shoulder and they go, "Fuck you doing? Get off of me!" And they're like, the more qualified. I'm just trying to help you and show you. You don't know. You don't have the education or intellect to know what I know, and that's not me shitting on you. That's just me stating a fact. And it's not like I'm people go, yeah, but that's like bigotry. And I'm like, bigotry would be that guy going, I'm more intelligent than you, so lick my taint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be like
Like
I'm more intelligent because I'm X thing, and it's like
so
they're
fetch me
they're only
my
saying they're more
shit.
intelligent because they
Or
literally possess more knowledge.
yeah, like
Like that's I don't know how people measure intelligence, but I measure it by how much you know and how well you can execute it.
yeah,
And I think that if you went to if you were a Earthling who came from Terra, where there was a horrible war to unite your planet 1,000 years ago, but now you live in this. Okay, let's talk about Terra real quick. It's a utopia at this point in time.
eh.
It's a fucking
Let's use
utopia.
Ultramar. Let's use Ultramar.
Well, Terra it fits in the beginning. It
Yeah.
loses its utopia as it becomes a metal ball.
Yeah, and
But it wasn't always like totally coded metal ball of arms manufacturing and
right.
Titan production. But it does become that.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, the iterators I can't remember if this was in the Thousand Suns book or if this was in the Garvio Loken book, but it's one of those two. They're talking about what it's like to be from Terra. And this guy who was an iterator was born in a rich family, grew up in a palace, all that stuff. But he also talks about living with like a bunch of people and like it was normal that he didn't have a job, he didn't pay rent, he didn't have to go buy food. He just went to the food place and got food and went home to his house and lived there because Terra had perfected itself. It was place where if you were human, the only objective for you was to be really smart. Go to fucking school. That's what you do. Here is your life taken care of. Go to school.
Yeah.
Go to school and learn everything you can learn. Get on that crusade fleet and go teach other people about that stuff.
But also recognize that, like, you're going to do your best. You're going to learn what you can and get as smart and intelligent as you can. But there's always going to be someone above you all the way up to the emperor. And when one of those people above you gives you instruction and guidance, you need to just fucking take it and not talk back and get an attitude. Like, there's no point. They're not trying to guide you on the shoulder and steer you into a river of lava. They're not.
No.
You know?
It was virtually corruption free in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it was such a forward moving thing. The whole idea of it was just to move forward, that the people who would have been stirring up all this corruption were A, afraid of the emperor and the custodians, and then B, they had thousands of worlds to go to, and they didn't need to corrupt Terra anymore. Terra was done. Terra was perfect. Yeah. And so go corrupt something else. But if you do, know that you'll face the emperor. So they were like, okay, well, maybe we won't do that as much.
Yeah.
So it was all more subtle. It all still had to conform to the imperial truth, and it all still had to conform to moving humanity forward. Which was the apex point of that entire comic, was that he's not here to destroy religion. He's here to save humanity.
Right.
And in his opinion, the only way to do that is to eliminate these 5 problems.
Right.
And one of those problems is the stubbornness that religion creates, or that superstition really creates.
Yeah.
Believing in anything like ghosts, things like that.
Not having an answer to a question, so just inventing your own answer. That's got to go away. Because that stops you seeking the real answer. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
use science, use logic, and if those things fail, keep doing it.
Be patient and keep
working.
Patient. Yeah. We will figure it out eventually. And I tell that to, like, my parents and my family. I'm like, I'm living in a world right now, 2021, where I can look back at history that I've been educated on, and I can see all these questions that the human race used to not have answers to, and now we do. So for me, and I think the younger generations, we look at it and go, for all the still unanswered questions, we go, we just haven't yet. You know, there were questions thousands of years ago we didn't have answers to, and we found those. So maybe it's just gonna, maybe it's just gonna be another 1,000 years or so, maybe more, but I think we'll get there.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's just going to take a while, and it's not going to come in my lifetime, and that's just the way it is. I just gotta, for my lifetime, I gotta live without an answer to that. And
don't lose sleep over it. You know, that's another thing. If there are answers you can't answer, literally cannot answer, like, are there aliens? Look, I'll tell you the answer to it right now. This is the truth. Probably.
Yeah. Probably.
They're probably really fucking far away, because the universe is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, inconceivably enormous. That Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think, says it best. He says, to say that there are no aliens in the galaxy because we haven't met them is like going up to the ocean with a glass and scooping some water and being like, I don't see any whales. There are no fucking whales here. like obviously that's not true. You can't fit a whale in that shitty little glass, but there are whales there. You just don't know. So it's interesting to see the evolution of knowledge, but it's more interesting to see the acceptance of knowledge.
Right.
When you decide that knowledge exists, it exists. You might not possess it.
Right.
You're already better off.
Right.
Because you're already accepting some universal truths.
Yep.
Things are here and are tangible and can be discovered and understood. It just takes... We only got this thing.
It takes work.
We got this bowl of wet macaroni that has electricity in it and is like, I figured out how to make things explode and go fast. And we're like, yes, keep doing that. Like, we were really into that for a long time. We're still really into that. Like, eventually we won't be.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll do cool shit and should take time.
Yeah, it does. All right. Well, I mean, I've pretty much said everything I need to say about this. I also really need to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I'll just leave everybody with a little closer. I think I think this was great. I think it was just it was a challenge to both perspectives, atheism and religion. You're listening to a person espouse the good of religion, which there is, and the bad of religion, which there is. These are indisputable. And a lot of the points were correct on both sides. It's about finding a middle ground eventually as a human species, and living with each other with these differences.
Right.
That is how we'll get to this utopia.
Right. And like I said at the beginning, we're talking about a fictional short story here. There is no God Emperor who knows the truth. So anyone who was interested by what we say here, and you go on to watch this little animated short, it's called The Last Church. At the end of it, like, no one should feel obligated to have picked either side or to have changed their point of view, because
No.
it is Warhammer 40K fiction. It's just interesting to see in this fictional within these
Right.
fictional parameters this debate occurs. And it's just also interesting to see it from the perspective of like the guy arguing against religion in this fictional setting knows he's right. But
Right.
remember, in our real world, we don't have a dude like that,
Right.
yet, or maybe
You
never.
can't apply the
But
God Emperor
yeah, you can't apply the
as
God
much as we'd
Emperor.
love to.
Yeah. So yeah, but other than that, I loved it. For all 40K fans, I recommend watching it if you
Yeah.
haven't watched it already, or read the short story by Graham McNeil. And just for anyone else who likes what they've heard here, check it out. It's good. It is over an hour long, so
Yeah.
set aside that time.
Well worth it, but
yeah,
still it's a bit long.
For a video, it's two dudes talking in a church. I was just
Yeah.
like I was
Lasered in, honestly.
Yeah.
So really good, truly. So yeah, I would just say watch it.
All right, man. Well, I will talk to you soon. I got some stuff to do today, so.
All right, man.
I'll hit you
Me
up
too.
soon. We'll play Divinity
dude.
soon. I promise.
Yeah.
These night shifts are
we'll
kicking my ass.
We'll figure it out once you have better shifts, because
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
Night shifts suck.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, man. I'll talk to you
All
soon.
right. Talk to you later.